Proposal writing and ethics in research. By the end of this topic, you should be able to
1. Define what is a research proposal. 2. List the 8 items in a research proposal.
3. Identify the guidelines for writing a research proposal.
4. Elaborate the 3 common weaknesses in a research proposal. And
5. Describe the ethics in research. Before embarking on a research project, students must have an overall research plan that indicates the research problem to be studied, research objectives, significance of the research, strategies to obtain answers to the research problems, and the research project implementation schedule.
This overall research plan is called a research proposal.
It is very important that students write a good research proposal, because without a good research proposal the student may not get a research supervisor or even an approval to carry out the research.
the student must also know about ethics in research, because that governs the researcher's behavior in terms of what should do and should not be done in the research project.
What is a research proposal?
This topic will address guidelines for writing a research proposal for your research work. All students are required to write a research proposal before venturing into research work.
A research proposal is a document written to state your proposed research direction and the study you intend to do.
A research proposal serves to advise your academic supervisor or potential provider of a research contract on your conceptualization of the total research process that you propose to undertake and examine its suitability.
A research proposal is an overall plan, scheme, structure and strategy to obtain answers for your research problems, which constitutes your research project. A research proposal can be rejected if your supervisor or graduate committee finds it is poorly devised.
Therefore, you need to have a well-planned research proposal prior to undertaking any research task.
If the proposal is well designed, it would be much easier for you to outline the entire research processes as well as help you to prepare a thesis or dissertation in a sequential manner.
Contents of a research proposal.
In this section, we will describe in detail about the contents of a research proposal. Firstly, let us examine Figure 10.1 that shows the content of a research proposal.
Contents of a research proposal.
In this section, you should provide an overview of the issues that you intend to study. The content of introduction should be brief, precise and straight to the point. After giving an overview on the scope of the research, you will need to narrow it down to the specific area of your concern.
Try to elaborate on the main theme that needs to be addressed. Identify the gap that exists and the research question will surface naturally.
Define the problem statement in your proposal. This will give a clear perception to the reader on the issue you are going to solve.
However, the problem statement you write in the proposal may only be tentative at the point of proposal preparation, because the research has not been carried out yet.
Use simple sentences and make sure you narrow down the research issue to focus on a very specific field.
Research objectives.
List out your research objectives and it should indicate the central theme of your research that you intend to study.
Use action-oriented verbs when you write the objective statement, such as to find out, to determine and to ascertain, which must be listed numerically.
Research questions.
Research questions are questions formulated to address the research objectives and to break the research objectives into smaller parts.
Research questions will influence research methodology and the type of analysis to be performed.
Significance of the research.
Mention briefly why you need to do the research and provide justification for it.
You may elaborate on the significance of the research based on certain criteria, for instance, a problem that demands attention because the findings can solve or influence practice.
You can also provide justification if the methodology you are going to use has some degree of novelty and your research would contribute to new knowledge.
Some other criteria you can mention are the variables that you are going to use and the expected outcomes of your research and its influence on the model design.
Literature review.
In this section, do some summary about the related work of your research and what others had done to date in your field of interest.
Try to read a thesis in similar area that you are investigating to get the feel of it.
It will be an added advantage if you could provide one or two critiques of related work that you have come across in the proposal.
This will give a good impression to the readers that you have done your homework.
Introduce some definitions of the key terms.
Concluded the literature review with a theoretical background which describes the model you are going to use in the research.
Methodology.
Generally, it is not necessary to describe the methodology that you are going to use in details. However, you should justify why it is chosen over other similar methodologies.
You may explain some reasons why you are using certain theory or models, whether your research approach will be qualitative or quantitative, or a combination of both.
Describe variables, sampling techniques and data collection methods as well.
Explain the type of data involved and what type of analysis and testing will be performed.
Project schedule.
Provide a Gantt chart or timetable specifying how long it will take to complete your research work.
Also indicate how long you'll take for data collection, analysis and writing up the final report or document.
Some research proposals require indication of milestone dates to give clear picture on the expected accomplishment.
Gantt chart for a research project. References.
List of references must be provided by following the academic guideline or scholarly fashion.
References will convince the reader that your proposal is comprehensive and demonstrate your understanding in the particular field of interest.
Use citation style of APA, Manual of the American Psychological Association, or other bibliographical standard accepted in ICT.
Self-check. 1. What are the main contents of a research proposal?
2. What should you write in the literature reviewing a research proposal?
Guidelines for writing research proposal.
There are several steps and guidelines to be followed during research proposal preparation.
Familiarize yourself with word processor software, for example Microsoft Word, OpenOffice, and learn the features of the software, for instance inserting tables, graphs, footnotes and other specially formatted features.
This will help you towards preparing a research report at the end of the process.
Follow the guidelines specified by the institution, organization or funding agency to which you are submitting the proposals. Write according to the given guidelines in the specified format. While writing the first proposal, present your ideas by narrowing it down sequentially and focus more on presenting the information in an interesting manner.
You must remember that your proposal should be expressed clearly and states the overview of your research intention.
Write and explain about your research problem at the beginning of the proposal content, for example, introduction section. This is important as to give readers attention since the entire research process is driven by the research problem.
Write about the methodology you are going to implement briefly and precisely. It is a good practice to outline methods and source of data in the proposal stage itself.
This will put your proposal in a better position in order to determine its worth and potential contribution. Self-check. Identify the guidelines involved in constructing a research proposal.
Common weakness in research proposal.
As a learner, you must ensure that your research proposal meets the requirement and guidelines specified by your institution or university. This is partially important to help you plan your research process and ease you towards the preparation of the dissertation or thesis.
There are some common weaknesses encountered by researchers during research proposal preparation.
Proposals submitted by researchers and students for academic projects tend to have weaknesses as described in Table 10.1.
Weaknesses in research proposal. Weaknesses. Research problem justification.
Project description is unfocused and research direction is unclear. Research problem is not significant enough to support or provide justification in initiating new knowledge contribution.
The research problem is of interest only to a particular group and has many limitations.
The research problem may be so complex than the author actually thinks. The hypotheses are doubtful or rest on insufficient evidence.
Weaknesses. Research methodology.
Research design and methodology is so vague and unfocused. Data declared by author is either difficult to obtain or not appropriate for research problem mentioned earlier.
Method and measurement instruments are inappropriate for the research design.
The proposal does not state the equipment to be used or highlights outdated equipment for the research use. The proposed statistical approach has not received adequate consideration, is too simple or unlikely to yield accurate results.
Weaknesses. Proposal author.
The author does not have sufficient training or experience for the proposed research topic. Hence, it is important for you to choose a topic which you are good at and familiar with in the specified field.
The author has insufficient time to devote to the research project.
The author does not critically review the related works, but simply rewrites the available literature of the particular research topic. The author does not quote and cite the necessary references, based on academic journals and research papers.
2. How is a good research proposal benchmarked?
1. Describe the common weaknesses encountered during proposal writing.
Research ethics.
Ethics are norms or standard behavior guiding choices or relationships with others. They may refer to the appropriateness of the behavior in relation to the rights of those who will become the subject of the research or who may be affected by the pursuant of the research.
A researcher needs to consider ethical issues when doing the research so as to ensure that no one is injured or suffers adversely from research activities.
The researcher must be sensitive to the impact of the research work on those who are approached for data or information, those who directly or indirectly provide access and cooperation, and those who will be affected by the results of the research.
Key ethical issues. Some of the key ethical issues that might arise are:
privacy of possible and actual participants, voluntary nature of participation and the right to withdraw partially or completely from the process,
consent and possible deception of participants,
maintenance of the confidentiality of data provided by individuals or identifiable participants and their anonymity, reactions of participants to the way the researcher seeks to collect data, effects on participants of the way the researcher uses, analyzes and reports the data, and
behavior and objectivity of the researcher.
Privacy is accepted as the key to ethical issues that the researcher has to confront in carrying out any research project. Almost all aspects of ethics, for example, consent, confidentiality, participant reactions, and the effects of the way the researcher uses, analyses and reports research findings, have the capacity to affect, or are related to, the privacy of participants.
Ethical issues during the initial stages of the research process.
During the early stages of the research process, the researcher may have to seek access to agencies, organizations or even individuals. Ethical problems may arise when participants are not clear of the objectives of the research. Ethical issues may be related to a researcher attempting to apply pressure to grant access.
Issues relating to privacy may arise when a researcher tries to get access by telephone calls at inappropriate times, or approach the participants during odd hours.
Access to secondary data may also have ethical consequences, for example, when the researcher obtains personal data of individuals who have not consented to be involved in the project. Consent to participate in the research project may not be a straightforward matter because when someone agrees to participate, it does not necessarily imply consent.
The nature of consent can be differentiated as shown in next figure.
Differences in nature of consent. Activity. In your opinion, why do ethical issues become our major concern in the research process? Explain how to handle this issue.
Summary.
A research proposal should be concise, precise and highlight research problems as the main theme.
Gantt chart is important to illustrate your planning and project schedule throughout the research process.
A research proposal is an overall plan, scheme, structure and strategy to obtain answers for your research problem that constitutes your research project.
Writing a research proposal helps the researcher in organizing ideas and can also be thought as a contract between the researcher and the client.
The content of the research proposal should tell the reader what the researcher wants to do, why he wants to do it, what he wants to achieve and how he wants to achieve it.
Research ethics should be recognized and considered from the outset of the research project and be used as one of the criteria in judging the proposal.
Ethical concerns are likely to occur at all stages of the research project, when seeking access to data, during data collection, while analyzing data and in reporting the results.